Hello, everyone. We're starting. Hello. All right. Good evening and welcome to NAIT's virtual Alumni Lifelong Learning event. This is Networking for Introverts presented by Chantelle, Svensen-Lewis. As is our tradition, at NAIT, we honor and acknowledge that the land on which we learn, work, and live is Treaty 6 territory. We seek to learn from history and the lessons that have come before us and to draw on the wisdom of Canada's First Peoples. Only through learning can we move forward in truth and reconciliation into a better future together. My name is Avery Armstrong, and I'm a proud NAIT alumni and a member of NAIT's Alumni Association Advisory Committee. Today, and I'm happy to serve as your host. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items. Number one, this presentation will be recorded. Number two, upon entry, your microphone will be automatically muted. However, we will encourage you to turn on your video so we can see your lovely faces. Please use the chat feature or raise your hand, and questions will be addressed throughout the presentation. As NAIT alumni, you are automatically members of the NAIT Alumni Association. The Alumni Association has benefits, like today's event and other events, discounts, and services. Today's event is sponsored by our affinity program partner, TD Insurance Melange Monex. As alumni, you'll receive preferred rates on TD home and auto insurance, but for more information, please visit the alumni website or nait.ca/alumni. Now, let's meet our presenter, Chantelle Svensen-Lewis. Chantelle is a NAIT alumni and a partner of SN Recruiting. She's a strategic and supportive leader who has extensive experience in the post-secondary engagement industry, education industry, where she spent over 10 years in the development and advancement field. She is passionate about building teams and believes that employees are an organization's most valuable resource. Understanding an employer's and employees' values, motivators, behaviors, and competencies are what she feels contribute to a successful employer and employee match. Her experience in coaching, marketing, fundraiser, and account management allows her to provide a multifaceted approach to her clients' needs. So welcome, Chantelle.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well tonight. As our presentation is loading here, I see so many familiar faces, so it's so great to see you all here. And thank you so much, Avery, for that lovely introduction. On the screen here, you should be seeing our intro page here. And tonight, really what we're going to talk about is networking for introverts. And I'm an introvert, so if you're an introvert here tonight, I feel you. I feel the pain when you hear networking because I feel it too. But if I can, share with you some of the insights I've learned over the years about how to feel a little bit more comfortable with networking, I'm hoping that you're able to take some tidbits away tonight. So our presentation will be about 45 minutes. Feel free to pop your questions into the chat box over here. If I don't get to your question, we'll get to them at the end, but feel free to add your questions there. We promised that we would not be making you go into any breakout rooms or to introduce yourself, so don't worry, we will not make you do that. But if you do want to participate, feel free to, raise your hand and turn on your mic, or the method that I always prefer is in the chat, so feel free to participate that way as well. So let's get started. So here, I just want to make sure our presentation's working. So Tammy, do you see going to a networking event slide? Awesome. Okay. So let's picture yourself, you hear the word, you have to go to a networking event. And so maybe you're feeling like this. You're like, all right, I'm going to meet new people. I'm excited. This is my thing. This is my superpower, networking. Or perhaps you're more like this picture here. You're like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I want to stay at home, stay in my pajamas, don't want to meet anyone. Or perhaps you're kind of neutral. You're like, I know I need to network. I know I need to do this professionally, also personally. So I'm open. I'm open to things, but I'm not happy or sad about it. So in the chat box, tell me, how are you feeling when we talk about networking? You can either put an A, B, or C in the chat box. So A, you're excited, this is your thing. B, not so excited, want to stay home. And C, you're okay. You're open to the idea. Okay, we have some. Okay, great. I'm seeing a lot of B's, a little a few more C's there for sure. I kind of go back and forth between B and C. So never an A. I'm never an A. But hopefully by the end of this, one day here or there, you might turn into an A. So thank you for participating there. So what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to really look at why does networking matter? Really, why do we care? Why do we think we need to do and go to a networking event? And also looking at what is networking. And I think sometimes that the perception of what networking is really isn't what it is. So we're going to look at the definition about networking. And then also looking at introverts in networking, and everyone can network. So I just want to preface with that. But while introverts might have a different way of networking, so we'll look into that. And then also thinking about getting into the right frame of mind, looking at different ways to network, both as an extrovert and an introvert. Looking also at leading questions, so those opening questions that you can use when you're at grouped events, and then also how to join and leave a conversation, and then different follow-ups and some key takeaways. So let's head in there. So a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, I am an introvert, and I have been an introvert my entire life. And with what we do in our business, we do a lot of assessments, and I always come back as the most introverted person in the room, always. And they're always surprised that I'm so introverted, but I'm just a case of showing people that you can be introverted, but you can turn it on, as I like to call it, when you need to in certain situations. It's just knowing about yourself as well as knowing how to get that energy back at the end of the day. So for myself, I spent over 10 years here at NAIT working in advancement, which is covering the alumni side as well as fundraising. And then what I currently do, I'm a partner with Svensen Neighbour Recruiting, where we recruit for our clients. And then I also teach in the J.R. Shaw School of Business in the HR program. So it's just bizarre that every role I've had, I need to be front facing. And so over the years, really having to learn how to interact and engage with individuals. So I'm going to teach you some tips here tonight, and hopefully you can share your best practices as well with the group. Here's my contact information. Would love to connect with any of you, any and all of you at the end. Here's my email as well as my LinkedIn profile here. So let's jump in. So thinking about this for yourself, put in the chat if you feel like you want to participate in the chat. One word that comes to mind when you hear that dreaded word, networking. What's coming into mind for you? People, chore, talking, meeting people, anxiety, ugh, connections, talking, pain, oh goodness, oh no, what to say, yeah, 100%. Yeah, sometimes it might be a word or it might just be a feeling that comes to mind. I know for me, it's kind of like, dread. That's what I always feel at a networking event. Stress. Someone mentioned, yeah, all of those things come to mind, right? And sometimes if we have those more extroverted friends, they just love to meet people, and it's just something that they really enjoy. How to start a conversation, pretending, interesting. Yeah, all of these things. Great, great feedback here. And feel free to keep populating in the chat if you haven't gotten a chance yet. So let's think about, why does networking matter? Why do we care? So 73% of survey participants reported that they had been hired in the past as a result of someone making an introduction or connection. So that's significant. So for career progression, really understanding that those connections do matter. And networking is important because 70% of all jobs are not advertised. So if you are looking for a job on LinkedIn or Indeed or Glassdoor, know that that's just a small amount of positions that are available and open, because a lot of roles are word of mouth or make connections or even hired internally. And 85% of job vacancies are filled via networking. And then more than 95% of professionals say the face-to-face meetings are necessary for business. And this is because in-person networking offers more accurate first impressions rather than online. Now, I think perceptions have changed a bit since over these past few years. We've done so much online, but still there's just that something in person, that gaining trust. So we're going to talk a little bit about networking in person, but also online as well tonight, because really it's about you and you individually figuring out what works best for you. And then I just looked in the chat here and someone else mentioned a word when they think of networking is that fear. So hopefully by tonight, maybe it will change some of the perceptions and maybe you'll have a encouragement type of word that you'd want to put in the chat. Okay, so for those of you who registered a few weeks ago, you were asked to fill out a word or a phrase of why you want to network. And here's kind of a word cloud of all the feedback. And a lot of similar types of words came up here. So career opportunities, expanding social circle, career advancement, meeting people, expanding your business. So we know that it is important to network, but still there's something that holds us back. When we're looking at other reasons to network, like obviously this group here had mentioned career and professional development, career opportunities, building those relationships both professionally and also personally, and discovering new perspectives. So with this, if we are surrounding ourselves with the same people all the times, then we're not getting a lot of new perspectives. So another reason to network or to branch out and meet new people. We have personal growth. Sometimes in our work, it's expected of us. I know in my roles, it was expected of me, and my colleagues would be horrified to know some of the things I did to dodge having to go and network. I spent a lot of time in the bathroom trying to not have to walk around and engage with people. And also referrals, being able to introduce people to yourself, but also you introducing individuals to others. It's kind of being able to reciprocate, and then also learning new things and increasing your profile and your marketing yourself as well. And so a lot of this does have to do with your professional development, but also that personal development as well. So you were also asked what holds you back from networking, and these are similar to what you put in the chat here of when you hear that word networking. So a lot of individuals mentioned that they were shy, and not always does it mean that if you're shy, you're introverted. Just so you know. You could be anxious. You might not have enough time. Our days are so busy. Thinking about having to do something else that's kind of intentional almost, it might not fit into our schedules. Discomfort with small talk. So all of these things, there wasn't a lot of different comments. There was probably about 4 or 5 that the majority of you said here. So we all are kind of in that same boat and having similar feelings. And with that, do know that these things can change. If we practice and if we have some tips and if we try, then some of these things can be, not holding us back as much anymore. So when we think about networking, a lot of the times we hear, if you think about networking, it's in a big room, there's 200 people, everyone's standing around talking in their little circles, having a beverage, laughing, and like, it's not necessarily what networking is all about, but it seems to be the definition that we always think about first. But really, networking is building connections and that are mutual beneficial relationships. So, with this, it really is the action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. There was nothing in that definition about going into a big room full of people. So, remember that. So, I think we need to change the definition and try and think about networking differently, because you know what? You're probably already doing it. You just don't think that you are because of the definition of it. So, really, with networking, it's meeting and connecting with people. This can be done in a group situation or it could be done one on one. And then trying to kind of maintain that relationship. And it could be for personal reasons, it could be for professional reasons, whatever that might be. Um, trying to keep in touch with that individual. And that doesn't mean every day, but, having some way to connect with that individual. Also, it can be done in person, as we mentioned before, but also virtually. And again, you're exchanging news and information, or even potentially services. Someone might need services for their business from you. And then also, we need to really think about that change of the narrative. So I always say, try and think about your networking. You're connecting with people that you might not know. And you can fill in the blank of how you do that. Okay, so our first big question of tonight is, can introverts network? Absolutely, you can network and you're doing it already. And so I think sometimes as introverts, we're in that, what's the phrase? I'm an introvert in an extrovert world, just trying to find my way. So for us, it's just sometimes we need to look at things a little bit differently. What introverts are now, not this is just kind of a snapshot. It doesn't mean every introvert is this way, but it's just, if we think about the differences maybe between extroverts and introverts here. So, a lot of the times, introverts are really good listeners, and that's because we're more reflective and really thinking and listening to what's being said. And that goes along with being a little bit more observant, whether that's observing things around us or observing what the individual is saying, and also really able to have quality relationships that we can build. Now, with this, you might have a smaller group of friends, but have really great relationships with them that you've built. Or you could have a smaller number of colleagues that you gravitate with, but really developed relationships. And then also, sometimes introverts like to really craft what they're going to say rather than just, jumping into the conversation, really thinking about what they're going to say. And so sometimes that's what stops us when we're networking, because sometimes it's hard to interject into the conversation or we're not sure what to say. So if we can be a little bit mindful and planning before, that's definitely helpful there. Just looking in the chat here, I think a lot of introverts are not shy. Yeah, that's right. In fact, many of them are in roles involved in working with people because they're more attuned to the emotions. Absolutely, that observant, looking around, kind of getting those feelings of the individuals. Yeah, 100%. And Jamie, by the time you craft the perfect sentence, the conversation has moved on. 100% Jamie, so many times that happens in meetings for sure. So for us as introverts, just really thinking about having, sometimes we need to just prepare in advance or plan in advance, which is very helpful. And one of the other different things between extroverts and introverts is where we get our energy from. So when we get our energy as an extrovert, they get their energy from those individuals around them. So being in groups kind of energizes them and they get excited and they get that energy. For introverts, again, not all, but really getting a little bit more energy from being alone or being a little bit more reflective. So that could be, doing something independently, maybe reading, being alone, just to kind of get that energy back. And this is really important for you. So when you are in a group situation or a networking situation that might have a number of people, that you kind of need to know when you need to remove yourself to get that energy and how you're going to get that energy back. Okay. So let's think about how we can make networking work for you, because we're not the same. No two people are the same or enjoy the same ways of networking, regardless of being introverted or extroverted. And what I'm going to share with you today isn't just for introverts. It's more about you picking what's going to resonate best for yourself. So first off, when we're looking at networking, kind of set your goals. So thinking about, why do I want to network? Like, why am I doing this? Really is always like, what's the purpose of me doing this? Maybe you need to do it for work. Maybe there's a certain individual you want to meet, or you're wanting to expand your circle professionally because you want to expand and learn from others around you. Whatever that is, really determine why you want to network. And then looking at, what do you want to achieve from this? Is there a certain person that you're looking to meet? Is there a certain piece of knowledge that you're trying to gain? Is there a contract that you're trying to get down the road? So determining what that might be. And then what results are expected of you? What are your personal results that you want? What are maybe the company you work for, maybe in your role, you need to determine what those results might be. From there, really looking at what activities and events will make me comfortable. So switch this here where it's not like, where are you going to find those people as the first thought for you. It's more about what's going to make you comfortable. And what are you going to go to so you can be yourself and you're not going to dread going to an event. And I have a list coming up here so that some of the things will surprise you. Also thinking about, are you connecting with the right people? Who do you want to network with? And then what information are you sharing? Because networking really is a two-way street. It's not about you trying to just get. It's about sharing. And it should always be about sharing what you can give someone, what potentially they can give to you, whether that's just friendship or maybe it's a contract, whatever that might be. It's building a relationship and it can never be one-sided. And then also thinking about, what does success look like for you? Maybe your success is, I want to I want to volunteer and I just want to be able to talk to people when I'm there. That is 100% a great goal. And you can definitely build on it as you practice along the way. So you have to think about your own personal goals and what's going to resonate for you. For me, it was always, I'm going to talk to 2 people that I don't know, and that will be success for me. Quality conversation. And that's how I started. And it was a small enough goal that I didn't feel really too anxious about going once, I stopped walking around by myself. But it gave me something to have kind of that check mark and to feel good about myself and for me to want to do it again. So looking here, this is really small type, but I wanted to put a whole bunch of information on here for you. And this is not an exhaustive list, but I'm going to share some points here. And while I'm sharing, if you have any additional types of ways that you network, please share them in the chat. So obviously we have some of those events, the virtual networking event, in-person events, They might be like a designated networking event. I know with NAIT, they always have great alumni events. And the great thing about the alumni events at NAIT, um, generally you're going to learn something. So you're in a group of people that might want to learn the same thing. So it's a little bit easier to go to events such as those, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, because people are there for a common purpose and you're learning something. So it's not just about, having to stand there and need to talk to people all night long. There might be a little bit of that at the beginning and at the end. Also, being able to volunteer, I always think is a great one. Whether you're going to volunteer for something you're passionate about or a group that's just of interest for you, if you volunteer, sometimes having a specific task that you need to do is really helpful, because you're there for a purpose, and that will allow you to kind of just have a little bit more ease to talk to people who are there. So perhaps you're at an event and you're going to help with registration, and so you have to talk to people to register them in. Or perhaps you're volunteering at an animal shelter, what have you, and then you have other individuals around you that are there for a common purpose. So the conversation just kind of naturally flows and it's a little bit easier. Also, we'll get into some online events and informational interviews in a moment here. But just a number of different things that you can do, especially online. There's a lot of chat groups, especially on LinkedIn. If there's a certain topic that you're interested in, there's different chat groups that you can engage with individuals in there. Being able to watch a presentation and let the presenter know or someone know like what you liked, and trying to engage with those individuals that way. Also, there's different workshops that you might be able to go to. One thing that I always like to do is bring a friend. That way they're kind of there to help you. You can talk to them, but you feel a little bit more confident. And it's great because if that individual knows someone there, they can introduce you, or vice versa. You can introduce your friend to individuals, or you can make goals together. If you have someone that is a little bit more comfortable with networking, that's always great as well, because they kind of give you that boost to talk to individuals. So I always say bring a friend if possible, but don't just talk to your friend all night, because then you're negating the purpose if you're wanting to network. Are there any other, I'm looking in the chat here to see if anyone had any additional ideas here. Again, this isn't exhaustive. It's just ones that I was thinking of off the top of my head. And if you're thinking of things for more career building reasons, going to like industry presentations or career fairs as well, being able to talk to individuals from perhaps different companies that you're looking to apply to. Online, if you're connecting with recruiters, is always a great way too to help with your professional development and to see what roles might be available there. Connecting with a mentor, there might be someone you look up to in industry, or you want to connect with and potentially have them as a mentor, and then they might be able to guide you and introduce you to individuals that they think you should connect with or that you would want to connect with. Also looking at your current network and talking to them. And if there's a certain reason why you're networking, ask them, like, who should I meet? Is there anyone that you would be interested in introducing me to? That again, that can go for professional reasons or for personal reasons as well. So make sure you use that network. And if we have any NAIT students here or recent grads, make sure you keep in touch with your past classmates and your instructors, because that's your great network. That's the start of your network, and use that network. I don't mean use the network, but work with that network. And also with past colleagues or current colleagues as well. Those are already your network. Okay, so once we've kind of thought of, oh, and I'm just going to go back to this slide. I forgot to mention up at the top here, I mentioned align it with what you value. So again, make networking work for you. Don't try and, unless you want to try something totally different, but really think about what you value and what's going to be easy for you and that's going to resonate for you, because then that's just going to make things so much easier and so much more natural. Okay, so how to prepare? So one of the things is we have to get into that frame of mind. There's a good presentation. I think it's Amy Cuddy that talks about the power pose and the power stance and kind of preparing yourself for speaking in front of people or going into a room full of people. Whatever you need to do, really ensuring that you feel comfortable. So one thing that you can do is look into the event or the opportunity and kind of research it. You might be able to ask the organizer, like, how many people are coming? Tell me a little bit more about the event. Maybe they'll share the guest list with you. Maybe, maybe not. Again, thinking about what your goals and your strategy is. Are you looking to meet a specific person, or are you going there to try and talk to a couple of people to get your confidence up? Also, looking at open-ended questions and having a few of those in your back pocket for when you're stuck and you don't know what to say. And we'll look at that in the next couple slides here. When you are either at a networking event with a lot of people or a smaller group of people, it might even be at a lunch and learn at your organization. Try and keep your body language open. If we have an open body language, it kind of allows us to have people come and talk to us. If we're kind of hunched in the corner or closing off our body language, it's not as doesn't allow for people to come over and to talk. One thing that I always like to do too at a networking event or some type of activity is to find the individuals that might be on the outskirts standing by themselves, because I'm like, yes, that's my person that I want to go and talk to them because I feel you. I'm the same. So a lot of the times, if you are there by yourself or even in a group of two, like welcome that individual who's standing by themselves. And a lot of the times you can have the most best conversations with individuals and they might be feeling the same as you, or they might just be waiting for someone. But that's just a tip for you. Again, as I mentioned, if you can bring a friend along, it's always great to be able to do that. Asking for introductions as well from your network, from your colleagues. Potentially, if you're online, let's say, LinkedIn has a really great way of you can ask for someone to introduce you to someone else virtually. It's very easy to do and a great way to meet someone new. And it's okay if it's awkward. Just know that. It will get better, I promise you. But if it always feels a little bit awkward, that's okay, because you might be doing this for a specific purpose. And it's just not something that's, you're always going to be comfortable with. Being that good listener, asking those good questions. Know when your energy is coming down and you need to take a break. That's okay. Take that break, take that time to recharge, and try not to overthink it. I mean, that's easy for me to say, but try not to overthink it and just be yourself. And, that's when the best results happen. And last, practice. The more that we can practice, the more that you'll start to feel comfortable with things. I had mentioned, or I didn't mention this yet, but if you're not someone who likes to just naturally talk, I've a way that I've found that has really helped me in the last couple of years is when I go to the grocery store, I just talk to to people now just to try and like practice. And it's amazing the conversations that you can get into when you're standing in line for the checkouts. And also, if you're going on walks, when I have my dog and we run into individuals, I just I just talk to them, and I'm purposeful about that because I'm trying to become more and more comfortable. So those little interactions, they happen every day. So if you're needing just an everyday way to practice, it's just a little suggestion for you there. Okay, so here's just a little groupings of conversation starters for you. So again, if you're interacting with someone, you could give them a compliment. I always say, shy away from telling anyone about their appearance or looks or anything like that, but maybe they're wearing like a unique piece of jewelry and you're like, oh my goodness, that's a really cool piece of jewelry. But I really shy away from anything like appearance wise. So, compliment, be careful. Discuss something within the environment. Maybe there's a lot of great food around. Maybe there's certain architecture in the room. You can always ask someone if someone's like trying to or they need directions or what have you, trying to offer assistance, or if you need assistance, asking for assistance, asking about current events, certain observations. There might be work related questions or event related questions that just kind of come up naturally. And again, that buddy system, having that friend coming along is always, you probably see it on every slide here. I really recommend it. So here are a bunch of opening questions for you. Feel free. Yeah, as I see here, sorry, I missed this. Colette says, I ask about pets. Absolutely. So great opening questions here. Feel free to add any other questions that you do that work really well for you in the chat so we can enhance this slide here. But if you have a smile, it kind of just allows you to interact a little bit more. Also, really great way, like, have you been to an event like this before? Or if there was a lecture that was happening, well, what did you think about the lecture? Or why did you come to the event this evening? Some of these questions to get a little bit more in depth, like once you get into a further conversation, but a lot of these are kind of opening questions. I'm not going to go through all of them for you. I'll just leave these as a takeaway for you to help you. Um, and again, online, if you're, again, at an event such as this, having, commenting in the chat, being able to post about anything interesting that might come up, maybe that you have questions about. Again, just trying to engage with other individuals. Okay, so when you are making introductions, for this, I don't really have a great rule or anything like this. But know who you are and how you would, I say, how you'd sell yourself to a CEO, but that doesn't mean that you're all about your job. So you can introduce yourself however you would like, but making it more of a summary is what I'm trying to get there, so you can practice as well. And if you are at some type of work event or you want to talk about your work because you're trying to network more on that professional side, so you can really easy. I'm Chantelle Svensen-Lewis. I am a partner with Svensen Neighbour Recruiting. And, I love being able to connect candidates with employers. And that's where I get my energy from on my day-to-day basis. So again, something just really simple about who you are, what you do, why you enjoy it. And again, it doesn't have to be about your job. We're more than our jobs, hopefully. And being able to talk about, here I might insert, if I'm at a volunteer event, I have a dog named Pearl, and I just want to connect with others that love their dogs as well, and being able to learn more about how to make my dog not pull on her leash. So something like that, like however you want, something short and sweet that talks about you and why you're interested in being at the certain event. If you are in a conversation, again, saying hello, making those pleasantries. If you're with someone, they might introduce you to someone, which is always helpful. Or if you know someone, you might introduce your friend who's with you to the individual as well. Um, Again, when you're interacting, really have that active listening. We don't have to talk a lot. It's quality is more than quantity. So having those good questions or those observations is great. If you can, use names. That's a great way of remembering names. A lot of the times, if you are at events, whether again it's a lecture or you're volunteering or at a networking event, there might be name tags, which is helpful. I mean, if you forget someone's name, it happens. You can just be honest. And um, if you're like, I'm sorry, I forgot your name again. I'm so sorry. Just, say it that way. It's very, people forget. Um, and then also, if you're actually trying to leave the conversation, just thanking the individual, like, it was so great to meet you. I really enjoyed learning more about your work doing ABC, and hope you have a great evening and would love to connect with you again. Like, just trying to kind of round out the conversation. So, yeah, we've met before. I'm Brad. Yeah, absolutely. Um, if you're trying to leave that conversation, sometimes it's awkward. You're like, I've been talking to this person for 15 minutes. I would like to talk to someone else. But I also, this conversation is okay. And if the conversation is good, feel free to stay in the conversation. But if you do need to leave the conversation, I always say just kind of circle around and kind of bring it back to the beginning, and what you learned and what you enjoyed. You can also ensure that ask them like, do you mind if I connect with you on LinkedIn? I'd like to further our conversation. Feel free to do that to kind of close out the conversations. You have trouble joining the conversation. Yeah, great point. If anyone has ideas on how to get into the conversation, feel free to pop that into the chat. For myself, again, this is why it's great to have a friend come along. Sometimes it for surely can be awkward where you're standing in the circle and you're not sure how to join into the conversation. So this is what I say. This isn't going to answer your question, but it this is why we want to welcome those who join our groups to converse. So then we're hoping that when we join another group that they're as familiar as we are with welcoming others so that they'll reach out to us and say hello and welcome us into the group. Um, Always look for a physical opening with people and not completely closed off and say hi. Yeah, great advice there. So if we're open to welcoming others and seeing someone on the side trying to join into our group, then hopefully that will reciprocate down the way. Again, if you're in that group situation, just try and listen to the conversation and to see where you can interject. Or sometimes I make it funny. I'm like, oh, hi, I'm Chantelle. Do you mind if I join your group here? And usually they're okay with that. Sometimes I just like make light of it. Then it's a little bit easier. But really great suggestion here about that physical opening for sure. So yeah, great. Hi, sorry to interrupt. What are you discussing? Yeah, 100%. Great. All those things are going to just help you feel a little bit more comfortable joining into a group. Um, if we're looking at online in particular, so again, you can connect with individuals online in a variety of ways, whether it's presentations such as this, or whether it's forums, online forums. So again, introduce yourself similarly to what we talked about earlier. And then also, if there's a certain request, if you're like, oh, Avery gave me your name, I'm reaching out to you, I'm really looking to get into teaching, and Avery mentioned that you would be a great contact for me to connect with just to learn a little bit more because you're an industry leader. So if someone introduces you, being able to say why you're reaching out and who introduced you to them. Perhaps even Avery could introduce me to someone, which then that way it's a nice connect that way. If you're trying to do an informational interview, so this is a really great way if you're trying to learn more about a specific role. Let's say you're thinking you're just entering your career, or you're thinking about switching your career. Really being able to connect with those that might have information to share with you. So one of the ways that you can do this is, again, you can ask your network to be referred. You can also, if there's someone that you're like, oh, I just think there's such a great industry leader, I'd love to, talk to them and learn a little bit more. That's why LinkedIn is really great, because it kind of, people are usually flattered when someone reaches out and wants to learn more. Not always, but sometimes. So being able to reach out to the individual, again, introduce who you are, why you're reaching out to them, letting them know it's for information purposes, like you're not asking for a job or anything like that, that you're wondering if you could learn a little bit more. Let's say, again, if you're looking at, I'm wanting to become a teacher, like tell me about it, like why you're reaching out to them, and then let them know that it will be 20 to 30 minutes, respecting that individual's time, and then really having those questions that you're trying to obtain information on ready and respecting that individual's time. And then being able to thank them for their time. Again, remind them that you're not there to ask for a job. And then also following up at the end. And sorry, I just see a few comments in here, so I just want to look back here. Oh, Avery mentioned, hey, I heard you're talking about hamburgers. Have you tried the new ones on the, yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Jamie, my technique has been to walk up to a group and just stand there, looking at them until they say something. Do not recommend. Yeah, well, if we learn to welcome those and to then hopefully in the future it's not going to be as awkward. So good for you for trying. I love that. Okay. And then was there anything else here? Oh, just some laughs there. Okay, and then finally, for anyone that we're meeting, whether it's virtually, whether it's in person, again, following up with that individual. So thanking them for chatting with you and letting them know again, hey, is it okay if we connect on LinkedIn? Can I reach out to you? With business cards, someone was asking me the other day, are business cards even a thing anymore? A lot of the connections have been more virtual, but people still have business cards as well. So whatever you feel comfortable with. But it's a really easy to use LinkedIn as well, and to just make that connection. Again, when you're following up with the individual, thanking them for that conversation that you had, and then whether you're trying to schedule like a meeting with them, or do you want to learn something more about their business or organization, or perhaps it's just, it was great meeting you. Hopefully we connect again in the future, and then you made that connection. Like there doesn't have to be some intentional component of it at the end. And then again, LinkedIn is a great way to stay connected with following up with individuals, or if you're in online chats and our online groups as well, being able to connect with individuals that way. So whatever you feel comfortable with, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person. So just kind of to finish up here, some key takeaways. So know again what works for you. What are you comfortable with? Is it online? Is it in person, smaller types of events? Is it something where you're going to learn something at the event? So you kind of networking is kind of a side part of what you're going to do. Sometimes I find if you have that task or if you have that ROI mind, which I do, it makes you more intentional about doing things and you just do it. Know what your goals are. Is your goal at that event or on that online chat to find an industry expert that you can talk to? Know what you value because that's going to help you identify what types of ways are going to resonate with you to network. Utilizing those online tools like LinkedIn. There's different online groups as well, whether you're wanting to try a new sport or if you're new to a city, new to a different country, being able to connect with individuals that might also be new is a great way to meet people. Don't forget to practice. Talk to people in the grocery store. Really, it's a great help to make you comfortable talking to people and having those like easy ways to start a conversation. And finally, make sure to be yourself because we don't want to do things that aren't comfortable with yourself. And being yourself is going to come across really comfortable, and people will gravitate towards that. So that is high level overview for networking for introverts. Again, it's not a lot different than networking in general, but let's try and change that narrative of how we connect with individuals. That's all that networking is connecting with individuals and just knowing what's going to work for you. So if there's any questions, I definitely I'll try and answer some of those. Can you list down some of the groups on LinkedIn specific for networking? Yeah, great way is what you can do, like kind of in the search bar. You can do like networking groups for Edmonton and just kind of put in that word search, and then different types of groups will pop up for you in different chat areas. You can certainly do that. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't see the hands up. So, Jamie.
Oh, thank you. One of the questions earlier in the chat was, what could be an opening pitch, and do you have an example? And I
Oh,
think that goes really well with my technique of just standing awkwardly. So I would like to know what to say.
yeah, 100%. You know what? I'm just going to pop back here. And I think I have something very simple where it's like, hi, I'm Chantelle, and I work at Svensen Neighbour Recruiting. I'm a recruiter, and I love working with um, my organizations and my candidates to help with placements. So if you're trying to introduce yourself, just something really easy and something nice and short and sweet there. Again, if you're on the side of the group, believe me, I've been there, and usually I just walk away and try and find a different group. But yeah, like sometimes if it's, I always err on the side of try and being funny. I don't know why that is, but just being like, oh, hi, can I join your group here? Like, and someone had mentioned, like, what are you talking about? And usually I'll just say, like, oh, hi, I'm Chantelle. I'm with blah um, company or what have you. Just something short and sweet. Does that help you there? Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
no problem. Yeah, how are you overused in surface level? Many people ask this without actually listening to the answer. Yeah, Carolina, 100%. Like, absolutely having those pleasantries, like, hello, how are you? But it's not getting you into that conversation, right? So if you can jump into a conversation that's already happening and contribute, that's, a way to kind of enhance that discussion. Any other questions? Did I miss anything else here? Oh, how often should you keep in touch with connections? Yeah, good question there. It really depends. If you are active on LinkedIn, being like if you do post frequently, um, every it really depends on the individual, right? Like if it's someone that you're trying to connect with for a work reason, maybe there's natural ways and more frequent ways to reach out to individuals. Um, Sometimes a way that you know we do business development, if we have, like, if we've worked with a client before but we're not working with them now and I see an article that might resonate with them, I might just send it their way and just be like, oh, I saw this, I was reading it, I thought of you, just thought I'd send it by. But there's really no rhyme or reason of why or when and how often. But I would say try and make it enough so when you actually do need to reach out for something, that it doesn't feel awkward that you you haven't talked to them in 4 years and now, or just craft the message so that you're like, I know I haven't reached out to you in a long time, and just try and be humble that way. Not sure if there's any other questions here. Don't see any, but I'll just pop up my questions here for you, my contact information. Feel free to connect with each other as well if you're wanting to share your contact information in the chat here. But yeah, I'd love to hear of things that you've tried and if it's helped with your confidence, different things that are working for you, and we can circle back with Nate. Hopefully they can share those successes.
All right. Thank you, Chantelle. You've shared quite a wealth of information about attending networking mixers with confidence and how we can sort of leverage different networking tools like LinkedIn to sort of grow your network. The next scheduled event that NAIT is hosting is a holiday dessert cooking demo on December 1st. So if you haven't signed up for that, please do that. That sounds awesome. A special thank you to our affinity program partner, TD Insurance Melange Monet, which is a proud sponsor of today's event. To continue improving our program, we will be sending out a short survey after this event, so we would appreciate any feedback that you have. If there's something you'd like to learn more about this or an event that you'd also like us to host, new ideas, please let us know. And thank you for attending. We hope to see everyone at all of our future events, and have a lovely evening. And thank you, Chantelle, again. That was lovely.
Thank you. Oh, I'm going to have to attend that cooking event. That's a great way to meet people.